If you've been wondering how to add texture in Tinkercad, the key thing to know is that Tinkercad does not have a built-in texture brush or a material library like some other 3D design tools. So instead of painting texture on a model, you actually create texture by modifying the surface of your shape. The good news is that there are a few easy ways to do it, and in this video, I'll walk you through the two most practical methods step by step. If this tutorial helps you out, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Tinkercad tips, beginner guides, and 3D design tutorials. It really helps support the channel, and it means you won't miss the next tutorial. Alright, let's get into it. The first method is using shape generators. This is the easiest way to add pre-made texture effects in Tinkercad. To start, open Tinkercad and go to your design workspace. On the right side of the screen, find the Shapes panel and click the drop-down menu. From there, look for Shape Generators. Depending on your version of Tinkercad, you may also see a featured section where some of these options appear. Once you open Shape Generators, browse through the available shapes and look for ones that create interesting surface details. Some great examples are terrain, Voronoi, or circular array. These shapes are useful because they already have a patterned or uneven look that can make your model feel more realistic, more mechanical, or more decorative. For example, if you want a rugged texture, a terrain-style generator can give you a rough, organic surface. If you want a more modern or futuristic pattern, Voronoi can create a cool perforated look. And if you want a repeated design, circular array can help create a structured texture effect. To use one, simply drag the shape generator onto the work plane and place it on top of or into the object you want to texture. You can resize it, rotate it, and position it so the pattern detail sits where you want it. If needed, duplicate it and place multiple copies across the surface. This works especially well for decorative panels, custom grips, or any model where you want visible surface detail. Now let's move to the second method, which gives you more control, the whole pattern method. This is perfect if you want to create a custom repetitive texture like knurling, mesh, or a carved surface design. Start by creating your main object. Then choose a small shape from the basic shapes panel, such as a tiny pyramid, cylinder, or another simple form. This small shape will act as your texture cutter. Before placing it, switch it to whole instead of solid. That way, when you group it later, it will carve into the surface instead of adding material. Next, position the whole shape so it sits slightly inside the surface of your main object. You do not want it floating above the model, and you do not want it pushed too deep either. Just a slight overlap is enough for Tinkercad to cut the detail properly. Once the first hole is in place, duplicate it using Ctrl+D. Then move the duplicate to create a row. You can keep duplicating and spacing them evenly to build a repeated pattern across the surface. If you want a more complex texture, you can make multiple rows and offset them for a greater mesh effect. This is where Tinkercad becomes really powerful for simple texture work, because even though it doesn't have a true texture tool, you can simulate texture by repeating these little cutouts across the model. It takes a little patience, but the result can look very clean and detailed. When your pattern is finished, select both the main object and the whole shapes, then click Group. Tinkercad will combine everything and carve the holes into the surface. That's what gives you the textured effect. If the texture looks too shallow, you can go back and adjust the hole depth. If it looks too strong, make the hole smaller or reduce the overlap. A helpful tip is to zoom in while you work so you can place everything accurately. Another good tip is to duplicate carefully, because consistent spacing makes the texture look much more professional. If the pattern needs to cover a larger area, build one section first and then copy that section across the model. So to recap, if you want to add texture in Tinkercad, you have two main choices. You can use shape generators for ready-made pattern surfaces, or you can build your own texture with repeated hole shapes and group them into the model. Both methods work well depending on the style you want. And that's how to add texture in Tinkercad the simple way. If this video helped you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more easy Tinkercad tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.